Hello. Sorry the title is a little bit clickbait. The book does, we're talking about the Clone Wars, which is my least favorite movie of the six. The book does elaborate on every scene that's there. It builds it out more. It draws out a lot more from the characters, from a lot of the characters. It does add some scenes as well, but it largely just develops scenes more to make them stronger. So it does add quite a bit to episode 2. But it also, with some of these scenes, can only do so much with the script it has. A few things that I think that the book did a lot of heavy lifting in is one, Shmi. Her character, her story of being kidnapped, being held captive, her death, it does elaborate quite a bit on. So I'll spend some time on that. I'll spend some time on Padme and Anakin as individuals as well as a couple. I think that the book did a lot to build on what's there, make it more robust, make it more relatable. And then from there, I think we'll end the video just talking about the episode 2 as a whole, my thoughts on it, and some things that I might change. We got several bonus scenes from Shmi. We got to see her living happily with the Lars family. We see her happy with Klieg. Owen, her stepson, is like a son to her, and the relationship, the bond that they have, the admiration and affection that he has for her, as well as her going out just to look at the stars and miss Anakin and still hope that he has a better life now, that he really is living as a Jedi, living, serving a greater good. And she's always known how special he is. She's always known what a unique child he is. And so she just believes that he's doing something great with his life. And she oftentimes goes off alone to ultimately to miss him and to hope that she gets to see him again soon. Then we have the kidnapping, which is explained in the movie, but we go into a lot more depth about the kidnapping and the attempted rescue. Klieg and Owen hear the bantha cry, and in the past, they have organized attacks against them, but they haven't done this in a really long time. And so they believe that the Tusken Raiders are forgetting the lessons we taught them in the past, he says. They're getting closer to their farms, they're getting more brave, and it looks like the Tuskens are growing bolder. So they agree to go out the next day to get the farmers organized for an attack, but when they went out at dawn, it was already too late. So we watch the attacks as well. All these farmers rise up to save Shmi and to bring her back, but there was a wire that was strung across the field and was disguised, and we watch the farmers get decapitated as they rush forward on their speeder bikes and the wire cuts through their necks. Friends, neighbors, fathers, they were all killed just like that. And then Klieg, too, loses his leg, and he has to be dragged away home by his son while the massacre goes on behind them. As soon as Klieg woke up, he wanted to go back for her. He wanted to organize another team and continue to fight for his wife that he loves, but there was just no chance that they could recover from the slaughter. They had lost so many people, so many families shattered. This is a bunch of farmers we're talking about, not warriors. There was no hope going back for her. We even got a scene of Shmi in the Tusken Raider camp. At first she's reliving a memory of taking care of C-3PO, and then she comes back to consciousness and she's being beaten yet again. We see her after she's suffered a lot, and rather than reveling in the pain and agony that she's experiencing, it more so focuses on what's been taken as opposed to what's currently being taken, which I thought was a really good narrative perspective for this. And then finally her death scene, which we obviously watched as well. This is actually my least favorite scene in the entire movie, just because there's so much built up here, you know, from Anakin leaving. He has expected to be able to return to his mother, and she's expected him to return to her too. He has so much, you know, he was missing her in the Jedi Council when they were testing him, and he's longed to see her again, and now he's having these nightmares about her, and he's disobeying Jedi order in order to go find her and help her because he truly believes that she is in pain, which she was. She's been captured for a month. There's no telling what she suffered at this time. There's all this buildup to get to this moment, And you're gonna have to forgive me. I'm just gonna be more negative in this video. I just don't like the direction for this scene. She's not currently being abused. As far as we can tell, I mean, we don't know how long she's been sitting there asleep, or unconscious rather, at the time when Anakin goes up to her and he takes her down from where she's been mounted, and she gets a couple of last Hollywood words out, and then just as she's in the middle of the I love you, it's the kind of death, where it's just like, and then she aggressively goes slack. And we have 3 of those in this movie. There's Padme's double, her body double, who has the just the same, and the body double was also in the throes of her last words, the apology. We have the assassin who's currently trying to speak, and then she herself is assassinated. So that one's at least a little bit different, but it's another, just as you're trying to get your words out, oh, it's taken from you. And then we have Shmi, which is the same way as well. I think that there's a less cheesy way to do death scenes than this. And having 3 of those really lessens the impact by the time we get to the 3rd one. But also, I think that there were ways that we could have made her death at this very moment a little bit more believable and a little bit less feeling like she died at this point because of plot. The Tusken Raiders could have potentially just finished a particularly brutal whipping with her, and Anakin finds her at the very end of it, and they just leave her to die because they realize she's at the very end, and then he grabs a hold of her in that moment, and that would be even a little bit more realistic. Or I was just talking to a friend about this, and he suggested that Anakin shows up after she dies. They get no goodbye. They get no last words. And not even having that closure with her, not even being able to let her see him one more time and give her that satisfaction as a mother, then throws him into a rage. It's tragic and it's unsatisfying, and there's nothing left in him but fury. The way the book went with it was more of her constantly reaching out to Anakin with her heart, and that is what's kept her alive so long. That's what's made her so resilient, is just constantly reaching out to Anakin with her love. As the movie states as well, finally seeing him is what makes her complete, and so then she doesn't have to keep fighting anymore, and she just sort of surrenders at that point, which is still not my favorite if I'm being honest, but what are you gonna do? Anyway, Anakin's reaction. We also get more of this. We see him resisting being taken over by his rage, remembering his Jedi training and not wanting to do something that could lead him closer to the dark side, but then seeing his mom and making a knowing choice, which I think is really impactful. We also get more scenes of the actual slaughter. We watch Anakin be completely taken over, feeling full of the Force, full of power, full of life. Shmi is a character that I deeply love. I think that she is an extraordinary mother. She gave Anakin a life that had joy despite being a slave, despite all the circumstances around him that were horrible. She believed in him. She gave him hope for a future when everyone around him said, no, you're just a slave. You can't dream like that. And when he had the opportunity to leave, she did not hesitate to tell him, go. You don't think about me. I'll see you again. And the extra time taken both in the novelization of episode 1 and in the novelization of episode 2 for her character, I just really appreciate because I so admire her character. Okay, let's talk about Padme. There is a great amount of emphasis put on Padme's character. Her determination to do what's right, no matter what kind of pressure is around her, no matter what it would cost her. Both in the movie and in the book, her nobility of character is really highlighted, as well as her humility, even when she's being called out, when her pride should be struck. Multiple times in this book, she quickly eases her pride and acknowledges that she needs the people around her and wants the people around her to call her out, to push against her, to invest. A theme throughout this entire book for Padme is that she worries too much about helping everyone else and not enough about helping herself. She hears this from Yoda, but she also hears this from her sister, from her mother, and after a while, she finally starts contemplating it for herself. This is her main inner turmoil. She believes that she's done good and she's proud of that work, even though it's exhausting and even though she doesn't actually want the power or the fame. But ultimately, she was hoping to have had a family by now. She wants to be thought of as just Padme sometimes. She wants people to look at her and not just see the previous queen or the senator or this person that provides all these needs or this relief. She loves doing those things, but she as a person is rarely seen, and her own dreams, her own ambitions, her own desires, she constantly pushes aside for the sake of the greater good. So along with her family being concerned about her, concerned for her safety and concerned for the fact that she really hasn't pursued her own interests or dreams, she's constantly serving everyone else and never serving herself. And so they are pushing her, Padme, what about you? And it has her starting to think, especially now that this young, attractive, stoic, emotional lad is right there staring her down, telling her he loves her every second. She's like, a little bit, yeah, what about me? And then we have Anakin. Anakin is a lovesick kid that sets sight on Padme one time and practically shouts, "I'm 18 now, that marriage proposal still stands!" He practically screams in every scene he's in, teenage boy who's in way over his head, which is exactly what he is, so it tracks. But we do see his puppy love deepen into something with more meaning. We watch him fall for Padme, not just the angel that showed up when he was a kid and he was mystified by her beauty. We see him admire her for who she is, where she comes from, and the different environments that he gets to know her a little bit more, the different sides of her that he falls in love with. The romance isn't just Anakin falling in love. It's used to emphasize what's important about Anakin, that he's led far too much by his emotions. The Jedi way of controlling your emotions and not getting too attached are nowhere in sight for Anakin. Not in regards to his mother and the nightmares he has for her, not in regards to the woman he's loved since he first saw her as a child, not in regard to protecting her, even if it means disobeying orders, and not in regard to his pride. Anakin was taken in too late, according to the Council. And we see the results of that on every page of this novel. Of course, all those things are displayed in the movie too, don't misunderstand me. Again, it's just elaborated on more and showcased very strongly. Every scene with Anakin and Padme is emphasizing either the conflict in her that brings her closer to him, or him being driven by his passions. His ego, his fear, his love, whatever it is, whatever emotional outbursts he's having in this scene, it is him being controlled by his passions. And it is an interesting dichotomy because his arrogance puts him in constant conflict with the people that he cares about the most. Obi-Wan, Padme, he's regularly in friction with them, but he also cares so deeply about them that he would do anything for them. It's lines like when Obi-Wan says, "You're gonna be the death of me," and Anakin says, "Don't say that, you're like a father to me. I love you," in his deadpan voice, but it feels a bit more passionate in the book when he gets really intense, when Obi-Wan says that to him and he turns really intense and he goes, "Don't say that. You're like a father to me. I love you." And then Obi-Wan is taken aback by the passion, taken aback by his sincerity in what he's saying, that he truly does love Obi-Wan and wants to do anything for him. And the next line in that scene, Obi-Wan says, "But you're constantly disobeying everything I tell you to do." And Anakin pledges himself. He's like, "I'm gonna do better. I will obey your orders." And of course he doesn't, because he's constantly led by his passions. He so deeply loves Obi-Wan, but when Obi-Wan is in friction with what Anakin feels he must do because of his love for Padme, and so he has to track down the assassin as quickly as possible, or because of his love for his mother, and so he has to go rescue her, then he has this conflict with him, and he thinks negatively of Obi-Wan. He thinks he's jealous of him, and he's just trying to stop him from doing what he should be able to do. In fact, I'm better than him in some ways. I guess it feels a little bit less like emotional outbursts and a little bit more like a young man completely out of control of himself because he's so controlled by his emotions. Which, this is my perspective. People may disagree and think that the movie landed that far more than I do. I think this quote does a really good job of showcasing what really brings Anakin and Padme together. It's a reflection on the simultaneous pride she takes in her work, but the burden as well. It's her desire to occasionally be just Padme, and the attraction she found in Anakin, who so unabashedly loved just Padme, despite the risks. She loves his transparency in a world where everyone is a politician and always trying to manipulate. She loves that she gets to be just a girl around him and to be loved for that. Obi-Wan wanted to pull Anakin from his duty with Padme because he thought that he couldn't control himself. But when that was denied, he called this time alone with her a test to Anakin to control his emotions and his character, one that he hoped Anakin would pass. He didn't. While I do think this book went a long way with elaborating on scenes, or just not having to cut scenes potentially that were already in the script to help massage out some of the awkwardness that we see in the movie. But I mean, you can only do so much with what you're working with. Some of the romance scenes are still just what they are, and we all have to live with it. Oh, or another example is right after Anakin returns with his mom's body, and he's very upset, he's just carried her body in, and he's upset, and Padme asks him, "What's wrong?" And the first time I watched that, I was like, just brought in his mom's dead body. That might have something to do with what's wrong. What even is that line? And in the book, that's still the line. And he says, well, he confronts that. He's like, well, I just brought in my mom's body. And she says, no, there's something deeper happening. What's really wrong? And then he goes on to say, I slaughtered the entire Tusken Raider village, the women, the children. The men are the only fighters, but I still killed them all. Which I still think is not a great line, because I still think if he brought in his mom's body, then that's enough. That's enough reason. There would be no reason for her to be like, no, there's something deeper troubling you. What is it? I think I just wanted to complain about that scene too. I don't have actually anything else to say about that. But it helps to elaborate on their motivations and their deeper feelings. All things that are in the movie, but it just draws them out more, which I think helps with the characters and with the reader being able to, or the viewer being able to connect with the conflict that's going on with them, since so much emphasis is put on it. Whereas I kind of feel, I won't soften it. I feel that the acting in this movie, particularly from Anakin's actor, gives off vibes more akin to desperate teen with possible serial killer tendencies, which, to be fair, what I mean is some of the romance scenes give the vibe of he definitely loves you, but he also might kill you, which, to be fair,
you brought him here to kill me.
No.
maybe it's all depicted perfectly fine. As I said, a lot of the characters are elaborated on here. The bounty hunter, what is it, Jabba Fett? The bounty hunter that all the clones are modeled after is given more characterization, as well as his relationship with his son, the clone that he requested to be unaltered, that he could raise as his own. The librarian of the archives also got more characterization. Sadly, Dooku, most of his scenes stayed the same, which I was really excited to get more from his character, but I guess those scenes were just good, and so there wasn't much needed done with them. But let's move on to talking about episode 2 as a whole. So I'm not a fan of this movie. I think I've made that clear. Not just because I think that a lot of the dialogue is cheesy, the romance is cheesy, several of the plot points, like the whole droid factory section was so long and it felt so much like just a video game play and something that we didn't need to go through all the false tension and chaos in order to see there's a droid factory, like there's a droid army being made. But several scenes I could... the point is that this is not my favorite movie. There's a lot that I find very cheesy, and there's a lot that I think took up time that we maybe didn't need to take up time for. What I love about episode 2 is Palpatine and his plotting. Really, the emphasis of the movie from my perspective, and I could be wrong, you could tell me what you think the emphasis of the movie is, but the emphasis of the movie from my perspective is on, one, establishing Anakin and Padme's relationship, because it is significant for Anakin's story, and the prequel trilogy is Anakin's story, and two, showing the chaos that's going on around us, the conflict that the Republic is currently facing, and kind of just getting chess pieces in play so that everything can happen in episode 3, excuse me. What I would have loved this movie to have been was far greater emphasis on Palpatine's masterful strategizing and manipulating. Palpatine infiltrated the Senate, bonded with Anakin, and then stroked his ego, telling him, you are the greatest. You have potential. You will become the greatest of all. You stand out among everyone else. He can see that Anakin has this pride and has this frustration with not being promoted fast enough, and Palpatine pokes at that. He pushes on it. He presses on it intentionally so. He pushes Padme and Anakin together by insisting that Padme needs a bodyguard. Dooku defected about 10 years ago. He did not join the Sith immediately. He just left the Jedi Order because he didn't believe in what they were doing and what they were becoming. Palpatine sought him out, told him, ally with me, we will make this, we will create something new. He developed this master plan of creating this droid army for the separatists, and then quietly creating this clone army that the Jedi don't know about, the Republic doesn't know about, and manufacturing this war, making the Republic terrified of the separatist movement and of this war that's just that they've been thrust into, but they don't have an army, they don't have a way of defending themselves. The Jedi say that they are not meant to be soldiers. What do? How conveniently Obi-Wan has stumbled on this clone army that, oh, a previous Jedi commissioned? Interesting. I don't think it was Palpatine's plan for Obi-Wan to stumble on it, but he did, and Palpatine used it for his advantage. Whatever his plan was before to introduce the clone army in the midst of the chaos that he himself had created, he had to change course, make a new plan, and he did. And that's part of what makes Palpatine so great, is he's this incredible strategizer, but he can also shift plans. He can also roll with whatever is thrown at him. He used this chaos that he himself manufactured to promote himself even higher in the Senate and to get more power, more ultimate power, all the while saying, I love democracy. I'll give it all back when it's not necessary that I hold all this power. He became a dictator with applause. All of these things, again, are there, but I would love for the movie to put a lot more focus on teasing out Palpatine's plan, showing it to us, showing his manipulation, building him up to be this great evil that we know he is, this great manipulator, strategizer, gaslighter that we know that he is, rather than putting so much emphasis on convincing us of the romance between Anakin and Padme. I don't think that the movie needed to convince us of Anakin and Padme's romance. We don't need to be convinced that they're in love. We just need to see Anakin losing himself to his passions. We need to see I would love to see Palpatine rising in power and manipulating everything to include Anakin and Padme. All the while, Anakin is completely losing himself to his passions. All the while, he's following his feelings, following his desires, and separating further and further from the Jedi way as Palpatine is rising higher and higher. A Sith is rising higher and higher, gaining control of the Republic. And then, as he's built up this great plan with Dooku, we get the beginning of episode 3 where he's going to betray Dooku to get the apprentice that he really wants, the one that he's been manipulating all this time to follow his passions. Apologies if this video is very different from the novelization of episode 1. I know that this one was a lot more opinionated and also a lot more negative. Episode 2 is my least favorite of the 6. I think I've already said that, but I want to be clear, this is the most negative video that you will see from me, especially since the next video we're going to be talking about episode 3, which I love so much. It's the one that got me into Star Wars. It's my favorite. We will be very positive in that one. And we'll be talking, I feel bad. I feel bad that I was such a negative Nancy, but it is the way that I feel. I would love to chat with you more about this in the comments. I am glad that I read the novelization of episode 2 because it does elaborate on key things that I think bolsters the story. But ultimately, episode 2 it's not me. But I promise the next video will be more positive. Please chat with me more in the comments. I would love to hear more from you there. I'll see you again soon. Bye.